Hello, I'm Michael Hooper, and today I'll be talking to you about word choice. Choosing the right words to use will dramatically improve the quality of your writing. Academic or formal writing isn't the IELTS exam. You don't need to impress an examiner with your vast vocabulary. Instead, you are trying to communicate accurately with others. In academic writing especially, it is very important to be accurate. Choosing the most suitable words will allow you to state your position more clearly and accurately. You may want to show your teacher that you understand a topic or share something you have discovered with the world. Whatever your reason for writing, there are two key points you should keep in mind when it comes to word choice: clarity and formality. 4 good ways to improve the clarity of your writing are: cut unnecessary words, use words accurately, don't use slang, and avoid cliches. The first 2 methods will be covered in other classes, so today I will focus on the remaining 2. Let's start by learning about slang. Slang is special words and phrases used by a specific group. It is informal and usually spoken instead of written. Slang makes your writing harder to understand because it is time and culture specific. That means it only makes sense to a small group of people for a short time. The meanings of most words change over time, but slang changes much faster. Here are 2 example sentences filled with slang or special cultural meaning from my own country. Things are crook in Tallarook, and mate, some legless hoon tripped over the esky. These sentences probably don't mean anything to you. So what about these sentences? Things are not going well. Or, some drunken fool knocked over the drink cooler. By replacing slang with common words, more people can understand our meaning. Clichés are unoriginal or predictable phrases. They are used so often that they are boring and often lose meaning. Clichés are particularly bad when used in academic writing because they often don't have a specific meaning. Furthermore, they can be difficult to translate and make your writing harder for non-native speakers to understand. Let's look at some popular clichés used by Chinese students and what they can be replaced with. Here are a few examples. How many of them do you recognize? Have you used them in an essay before? As a teacher, I can't help sighing when I read these phrases over and over again. So instead of using clichés, say precisely what is on your mind. Instead of saying, every coin has 2 sides, say, this issue is complex and can be approached from various angles. Instead of saying, as far as I'm concerned, say, I think, or personally, I believe. Don't begin an essay by saying, with the development of the economy. Instead, try to think of what specifically created the context of what you're writing about. If you're trying to explain why Chinese tourists like to visit more exotic places, instead of saying, with the development of the economy, Chinese tourists like to visit more exotic places, try writing, as household income increases, Chinese tourists are able to visit more exotic places. This sentence explains your point much more accurately, and it avoids a boring cliché. It is difficult to tell you exactly what you should say instead of a specific cliché. What you should say depends on what you want to say. Basically, you should simply state accurately what you want readers to understand instead of relying on clichés. Next, let's talk about formality. When you write, it is important to think about how formal you need to be. Different situations call for different levels of formality. Essays, and most forms of critical writing, should typically be formal. 2 good ways to make your writing more formal is to avoid phrasal verbs and subjective words. Simply making these two changes will make a big difference. A phrasal verb is comprised of a verb combined with a preposition or an adverb. This new word's meaning is often different to what the individual words literally mean. Some common phrasal verbs are figure out, catch up, point out, and put up with. These words are very common in spoken English, but they are not suitable for formal writing. Since they aren't suitable, what can we replace them with? Well, here are some examples. The words on the left are phrasal verbs. The words on the right are more formal choices. In academic writing, it is important to avoid subjectivity. It is so important that we will have a lesson dedicated to this topic. I recommend that you check it out when you have time. Today, we learned about word choice. We learned that accuracy and clarity are important parts of academic writing, and how to achieve these two things. Stay tuned for more lessons on language improvement.